What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. You are listening to the Introverted Nerd Watches. I am your host, Reese, and I am back for some more Saved by the Bell, y'all. And this week, I watched Season 4, Episode 21, No Hope with Dope. Oh, I'm so excited about this. I haven't seen this episode in so long. It was not like wasn't one of my faves, but I am just so excited that I watched it. This episode was hilarious. Oh my god, you guys. I love this episode. This is legitimately one of the funniest episodes that I've watched in a little while. I can't even. It's great. Before I get into it, because just thinking about it has me like wanting to crack up. Subscribe to the podcast because, I do this every week, a few times a week for Saved by the Bell and The Gifted and Black Lightning. So go to Apple Podcasts if you have an iOS device, click that subscribe button and maybe even leave me a 5-star review, because that would be a nice thing to do. If you are like me and you live that Android life, you have some more options, because I am available on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Google Play. And I personally listen to my podcast on Castbox. So wherever you get your podcasts, subscribe, rate and review the show, and recommend me to all of your friends and family. Thanksgiving is coming up, people. So share me, give the gift of me for Black Friday and Thanksgiving. I bring families together. That is, that's my calling card. I bring families together. Not really. I don't even bring my family together. Any old way. Let's get into No Hope with Dope because I freaking love this. So I remember in the 90s when I was a kid watching TV, and it was just like, it was a time of special episodes on sitcoms and PSAs about not doing drugs. If you're around my age, you probably remember the This Is Your Brain on Drugs commercials where the girl, I believe it's the what's the chick's name from She's All That? Who cares what her name is? But it was the She's All That chick, and she would take out an egg and she would be like, "This is your brain," and then she would smash the egg with the frying pan, and she would say, "This is your brain on drugs," because we were all in the 90s. It was all about preventing kids from smoking weed because weed was the gateway drug. And if you smoked weed or marijuana, you were one step closer to being a full-blown heroin addict. Which is so funny because I knew a ton of people that smoked weed in the 90s, and I don't think any of them did heroin. So they were wrong. But so No Hope with Dope follows in a long line of very special episodes about drug use and preventing kids from doing drugs and telling them how wrong drugs were. So yeah. It's so great. We never got this in school though. At least I don't remember. Maybe I just blocked it all out. But I don't remember getting the whole don't do drugs thing. Or maybe was that bear was the bear was Smokey the Bear was about you prevent forest fires, right? There was a drug thing. Yeah, was it the dog? I forget. This doesn't make any sense to anybody. I'm just mentioning random animals. So yeah, I don't remember a whole anti-drug thing at school in particular, but I do remember it from TV because every day when I got home from school, like 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, that's when they put on the that's where you got a lot of your anti-drug don't talk to strangers, like PSA type shit. And I remember all the drug episodes from damn near every show I watched. Like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air had his whole speed thing. Saved by the Bell had Jesse's song, where Jesse got hooked on caffeine pills, and she brings that up again in this episode, which is great. Yeah, like every show had an episode where somebody got caught with marijuana, because that was like, well, either Will from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, he got caught with pills, speed, but on almost every other show, somebody got caught with marijuana. Like even on Roseanne, somebody got Darlene. They thought Darlene or David or something had marijuana. But anyway, No Hope with Dope. Let's just get into this episode because it's seriously the greatest thing ever. So Johnny Dakota, who is meant to be like this big, like rising star actor, comes to Bayside with his director. This is so random. He comes to Bayside with his director because they are scouting out high schools to shoot a anti-drug PSA, an anti-drug commercial. I get so many questions about this. First of all, why is his name Johnny Dakota? Why do they do this on television shows? Like they always give like people who are supposed to be like famous people in universe always get these like really bizarre names, because I feel like people think that celebrities have crazy names. But when you think about it, you don't see a whole lot of celebrities with like really bizarre, like out there names. Johnny Dakota sounds like a fake name. It sounds so fake. And what's the other fake name on this show? The singer, Beau Revere. Beau Revere was everybody's favorite singer when Zach hypnotized the school or something like that, or gave subliminal messages to the school. So Johnny Dakota, Beau Revere, like all these fake names. And you think of, like, when you think about it, most celebrities have pretty common names, like Brad Pitt, Johnny Depp. Like Johnny Depp is such a Johnny Dakota. That's who he's supposed to be in this episode. I'm convinced. I don't know, but Tom Cruise, like Tom Hanks, like Will Smith. Will Smith is the most basic of basic names. He is just Will Smith it's like if John Doe wasn't the name for people who are unidentified, it would be Will Smith. So, like, celebrities don't have a ton of weird names. Like, they name their kids weird names, like Apple and Pilot Inspector. Like, celebrities give their children weird names. You don't meet a ton of celebrities with like really weird, obscure names. So that was just bothering me when I was like, Johnny Dakota, it sounds like he made up a fake name and walked into that school. And that's what they do. They just waltz into Bayside, these two adult men, and they start out talking to students. This is another thing about Bayside where anybody can come in. Now, maybe this is just an early 90s thing, and I'm thinking about what it was like when I was in high school, like some post-Columbine shit where like it was like lockdown. If like you could not come into our school if you didn't have like 2 forms of ID. It was like going to the fucking airport. You know, you want to get on the plane, you need a ton of ID. So that's how it was to get inside my school. But not Bayside. They don't give a shit about those kids. They're just like, come one, come all, you know, walk in. talk to our students, date some of our students. Oh, I got so, so they're Johnny Dakota and his weird, like they're so like fake Hollywood. It's so bizarre to me because Johnny Dakota calls everybody guy. Was that a thing? I don't know. Maybe because this happened in like the early 90s and maybe, I just don't know. And I missed out on the time where people called other people guy as sort of like to be cool, and it doesn't sound cool at all. So he's talking to Zach. He's like, yo, guy, can you help me out here? Introduce me to your principal. He bumps into Screech and he's like, whoa, guy. I'm like, who thought this was like cool? But okay, I'm willing to go along with it. Johnny Dakota, not that cute either. Like, not that hot for the way people are acting. Lisa can barely speak in front of him. She can't speak in front of him. She can't talk to him. But she loves him. She even passes out in front of him. Everybody's all over him. And I'm like, he kind of basic, dark hair, short, like he's really short. Which makes it like, okay, so Zach is taller than him, and I believe even Slater is taller than him. And Slater's not short, but he's not like super tall. So he waltzes in and he's supposed to be like this big shot, good looking guy. But I'm looking at Zach and Slater. I'm like, like these two kids over here look better than the big star that's supposed to be like the famous guy on the show. But whatever, you can only work with what you have, and he's what they got. So he's going around school, and he and his director are trying to pick a high school, and they haven't decided on Bayside. He tells Mr. Belding that this was just the first high school that they came upon when they got off of the highway. So the kids all hear about, that he wants to shoot the commercial, and he hasn't made up his mind yet. And Zach and the rest of the students put together a rap, and they perform an anti-drug rap to convince Johnny Dakota to choose Bayside to shoot his commercial. And it is so bad. And these kids are so, like, they're trying to be, it's like, oh my God, it's terrible. It's hilarious, but it's terrible. So he sees this rap, and I guess he thinks is good, which we should know right off the bat that something is wrong with Johnny Dakota when he hears this rap and decides that these kids from Bayside are just too talented to pass up on. So he, no, the rap is not even what convinces him. Kelly convinces him, because he meets Kelly after the rap. And now Johnny Dakota is an adult man. I don't know how old he is, but I'm going to assume he's in his 20s. Like, he's in his early 20s. So he meets Kelly for the first time. They shake hands, and he's like, I'm choosing this school. But I'm like, he meets Kelly in front of Mr. Belding and all of the other students. And nobody says anything about the fact that this grown-ass man is trying to push up on this girl, this 16-year-old girl. Like, I got such big problems with this. This is like the third or fourth time that they hook Kelly up with an adult. He's a fucking adult. Come on. Like, I was really pissed off when she was fucking around with Jeff. But this is even worse to me. like Jeff was a college student and he creeped me out and he shouldn't have been like messing around with this high school girl. But I'm like, okay, he's like 18 or 19 years old. Not good, but you know, I'm going to go. Well, I didn't even go along with it back then. I didn't like it, but I'm like, okay, I'm going to go along with it. Johnny Dakota is an adult man. He can go to a bar and buy alcohol. He should not be looking at this 16-year-old girl, and nobody else should be okay with it. This show is so bizarre. I can't even with it because they stay with these kids having crushes on adults, but then they sometimes have the adults like reciprocate the feeling. So I'm like, who thought this, like, was this a thing in the early 90s where it was just cool? Like, we're just going to bring adults in and we're going to make them have, flirt with children and maybe hook up with them sometimes. And it's just all going to be cool. And nobody's going to say anything about it. I cannot believe I used to watch this show as a kid. Like, I was a child watching this show. So, like, my dumb ass didn't know any better. Like, I didn't understand when I was a kid that Johnny Dakota was an adult and Kelly was only in high school. But as an adult, I'm like, I was sitting there, I'm like, what the hell? Like, who, like, why is she hooking up with this adult man? But it keeps going and they flirt all throughout school. Mr. Belding, terrible principal. Like, just in case we forgot, he is a terrible principal. Kelly, so Johnny is like, he's flirting with Kelly in school. Like, he makes comments about her curves, her curvy figure, which she doesn't have a curvy figure. She looks like a 16 or 17-year-old girl. A thin girl. She does not have a curvy figure, but he's talking to, like, it creeped me out. Like, it really creeped me out. So, and another thing that really was like, we should have known right from the beginning that something was wrong with Johnny Dakota. He is just way too cool with these kids. Shit, my phone is ringing. I'm not going to answer it either. But he's like way too cool hanging out with these kids. He like, these are just basic ass high schoolers, and he's going to the max with them. He's signing autographs, and he's back. He Zach makes a whole little business out of selling Johnny Dakota memorabilia to all the students. And he's like cool with Zach's scheme. And I'm like, why is he trying so hard to fit in with them? It was just, it's so crazy to me. I'm like, why is this? He's supposed to be a cool, like, movie star type. And he is trying so hard he's Mr. Belding's level of trying to be friends with these kids. And it's like, you don't have to try that hard. You're supposed to be cool. He's supposed to be cool already. He's not supposed to be like Mr. Belding levels of try hard. So that is another sign Johnny Dakota is not who we thought he was. So the funniest scene in this episode is that Johnny's apparently this commercial takes all week to set up, and he I don't know why he's so involved with this anti-drug thing, but he especially when you find out at the end of the episode that he's doing drugs. Like, I don't understand why he's so involved in it, but whatever. He sets up like this sharing circle or like this little rap session with all the kids so they can all talk about how they feel about drugs. So it's like the gang and some like randos sitting in a circle talking about, he asks like, yo, what do you kids what do you kids think of drugs? And this really old woman Okay, so she's not an old woman, but she's like, she doesn't look like a high schooler. She's just like this rando like punk chick, or not even punk, like rock and roll, I guess. She's wearing like all leather, and she's got these really red like teased hair. And she it's so like dramatic that I could not stop laughing. So she says, my brother was stupid and he took drugs and decided to drive to the beach. Now he can't drive because he's paralyzed, so I have to drive him now. It's not supposed to be funny, but I could not stop laughing because I don't know why. It was just, she's such a bad actress, I guess. And the story, it's just it's so stupid that I can't I couldn't stop laughing because it was just, I don't even know what kind of drugs he took. I think she was talking that she said he took marijuana, but now the way she said it, she was just like, now he can't drive to the beach, so I have to take him now. And I guess I can't stop it. I can't stop laughing about it. It's so funny. So the other kids are like, drugs are terrible. Slater and Zach bring up like Len Bias and John Belushi, like people who famously died from drug overdoses and shit. And then Jesse. Jesse speaks out, and she was like, I got addicted to legal drugs. And then she proceeds to say, I got hooked on caffeine pills. And I'm like, really? Oh my God. And it was, nobody laughed at her. I would have been the only one like, if I was there, I would have been the only one sitting there laughing. Like, is this chick for real? She got addicted. Like, this one chick over here just said that her brother did drugs, got into an accident, and paralyzed himself. And then, we bring up people who overdose. And then Jessie steps up with her drug addiction story, quote unquote drug addiction story. And it's like, I got hooked on fucking caffeine pills. She should have been thrown out of that room so fast, or she should have just been laughed out of that room. It was, I couldn't stop laughing at her either. Cause I'm like, oh my God, it's just so, her bringing up her caffeine pill addiction is so out of place. In this Don't Do Drugs episode. Oh, Jessica Spano, you are my queen. I freaking love you for bringing up your caffeine pill addiction again. Oh my God. It's so great. So, she doesn't get laughed at, but, like she should. And, so what happens afterward is that, we get our first appearance of who is going to be Ox, of the character that is going to be Ox for the rest of the show. So, he's Scud right now. His name is Scud. He's the boyfriend of the paralyzed brother chick, and he is smoking in the bathroom. And he Slater and Zach walk into the bathroom, and he walks out, and they find a joint on the ground, on the floor, which Slater calls a roach. And I was like, was that a thing too? Like, I have not heard anybody call like weed a roach since forever, like since I was a kid. But it's a roach, and they're all like, Slater and Zach sort of become like these like school cops, like the drug cops in school, because they find the roach, and they happen to get caught with it. Johnny Dakota catches them, and they can, Slater says, we don't do drugs. This is terrible. And Johnny Dakota believes them and he throws it away, but they can't let it go. So they need to know like who's in school smoking weed or smoking pot, which they call it throughout the episode. I don't like when they call weed pot. It's weed. Just call it weed. Or say you smoke a blunt or something like that. I don't know. By the way, I have never smoked marijuana. Oh no, I'm lying. I have taken a puff of marijuana, but I didn't smoke it the right way and I didn't inhale. Like I smoked it like it was a cigarette. So I didn't really get high. Like I'm not like Bill Clinton. I am actually telling the truth. I did not inhale the marijuana and I've never done it again. So I'm probably like the 1% of people that don't like the smell of marijuana. So yeah, it gives me a headache. I don't like the smell of it. But if anybody wants to give me an edible, I would definitely try an edible. Like I'm not anti-drug, but maybe I'm too cheap to buy drugs. It seems like edibles and shit, like that stuff can get kind of expensive. So yeah. But anybody wants to share an edible with me, I will definitely take it. But I'm not really a drug person. Like I don't even like taking pain medication because I don't like the drowsiness that it causes. Like some people love that shit and I don't. So I have to be like in serious pain to take my medication. Like I got Vicodin when I got my wisdom teeth taken out and I just hated every second that I had to take that Vicodin, but whatever. Yeah. So just random information about me that nobody probably wanted, but there you go, people. Anyway, so the Slater and Zach, the drug cops, are like, they're like on the investigation. They want to know who's smoking this weed. So they walk into the bathroom again and they see Scud smoking, but he's only smoking a cigarette. And they accuse him or they ask him if he was the one smoking the marijuana. And like Scud is like 45 years old and he's like really a whole lot bigger than both of them. But he stands there and answers their questions like they're actually the drug cops of school. And he says something about like everybody's so offended when they're asked about whether they do drugs or not. And he's like, no, I never do something like that. I never smoke marijuana. Meanwhile, he's standing in the boys' bathroom in school smoking a cigarette. Like, come on. And Slater actually does tell him like, well, cigarettes are just as bad. They're just as bad for you. They're bad for your lungs or something like that. So it's like, take it down a notch, you guys. We get it. These kids are anti-drug. We understand. We don't think that they're secretly drug addicted teenagers. We get it. So Johnny Dakota loves these kids so much that he invites them to his, what I think is supposed to be a penthouse, but looks like just a basic ass apartment that anybody would live in. He invites the gang to a party at his house, and he it's so weird. He knows that they're all high school students. So why does he want them at his party? I mean, I get the whole Kelly thing. You invite Kelly to your party because you want to keep pushing up on this 16-year-old girl. I understand that. But inviting the rest of her 16-year-old friends is like, huh? Yeah. I don't get that at all. Like when I was in my 20s, I was not trying to fuck around with 16-year-olds. I don't get it. Especially at a party. Like, okay, I'm not even gonna lie. I'm not like a party person. So I'm, actually an introvert. So being at a party with a ton of people is not my thing. But just like anywhere, I was like, I have a brother. I had a 16-year-old brother when I was in my 20s. And I was not even trying to hang out with him. So just random 16-year-olds, like, ugh, no fun at all. Can't do shit with these people around. And he finds out later that he shouldn't have invited these 16-year-olds because they're 16 and they react like teenagers when shit happens. So they're all at the party. Zach is wearing he's wearing like a zoot suit. It's this giant like baby blue suit he's wearing. It is, and it's like silk or something. It's bizarre. And I love every second of it. I don't even know, like, I don't know what material. It looks like silk or something like that. It looks like this really like like soft like billowy material, and it's like giant on him. It's like the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. But so he's at the party in this suit. Slater can't get any play. And Zach, I think, has a racist moment because Johnny introduces Zach to these two women who I guess Johnny was just fucking with, because they walk up to him and they're like, Johnny, you haven't come and seen us. Just two random blonde chicks. And he like introduces him to Zach as his co-star. And they're like, ooh, we want to mess with this guy who we don't know, the 16-year-old who we don't recognize from anything except he's like celebrity adjacent. So we'll fuck him. And Slater tries to go up to Zach like, hey, introduce me to one of your girls. And Zach goes like, this is Slater, my chauffeur. And it's like, was that kind of racist to Zach? Like, your one brown friend, well, one of your two brown friends, you introduce him as your chauffeur and tell him to go sit in the car. It's so weird. It was a weird moment. Like, I get the antagonism that, the love-hate thing that goes on between Zach and Slater, but introduce me as your chauffeur. I don't think so, Zach. That's not cute. That's not funny. That's not fun. I don't like it. So Slater can't get any play from anybody. Like, even Screech is getting like mad play from girls because one girl tells him he looks like Johnny Dakota, which is such a fucking lie. And it's like, do they know we can see? Do they know that the audience, that the majority of their audience can, knows what Screech looks like and can see what Johnny Dakota looks like? They look nothing alike at all. I mean, aside from the fact that they're white guys with dark brown hair, they look nothing alike. So, and this woman was probably high, which is why she thinks that Screech looks like Johnny Dakota. Anyway, Screech is a dumbass. He gets hurt pretending to be Johnny's stunt double, and the rest of the gang decide to take him home. Johnny asks Kelly to stay. And Zach decides that he's going to stay too. He's just going to walk down. He's going to walk out to the car. So while Zach is out there, Kelly and Johnny are like, I believe they kiss on the couch or something like that in the middle of this party. And then this dude in I believe is a turquoise suit. It's a turquoise suit. It's the greatest. It's an awesome suit. So he walks out with a joint in his hand. He's like, yo, Johnny, take a hit of this. And he passed Johnny the joint. And Kelly's face when he passes this joint to Johnny, you would have thought that he had brought like the needle and heroin out with him. The way her eyes bulge out of her head when she sees that joint is like, it's ridiculous. And then Johnny Johnny knows to puff, puff, and pass. So he tries to pass to Kelly, and Kelly freezes up. She doesn't know what to do. She's like, she can't believe that Johnny is doing drugs. And Zach walks in just in time, before Kelly is like peer pressured into actually taking a smoke of this weed. And he's like, shocked. He can't believe that there's drugs at this party. I can't believe they didn't smell the drugs at this party. Like, clearly all of these people are smoking weed all over the place. I can't believe they didn't smell it. So Zach is like, no, we don't do drugs. We Kelly, let's get out of here. And thankfully, the people at the party acted like people would actually act. And they laughed at them. And they laughed at them on their way out. They should have been laughing at Johnny. It's like, yeah, Johnny, what are you doing inviting these kids to the party? Like, of course, kids, get the fuck out of here. We don't want you smoking our weed. Oh, it's so crazy. And, Zach and Kelly are like scandalized, and they run out of the door. And the next day at school, Zach tries to talk to Johnny. Like, Johnny is like, comes in, and he's acting like nothing happened. This was just a regular old party for him. He didn't think about it at all. And Zach is like, Johnny, you can't do this. This is, I need you to not shoot this commercial. It's you can't do this. You can't preach anti-drugs and then go on after what you did last night. And it's like, calm down, Nancy. Like calm it down a little. Take it down a notch, Zach. He didn't do heroin. He didn't snort coke in front of you. He smoked marijuana. But Zach is he can't handle it. He's so scandalized. Johnny is like, fuck that kid. We're shooting this commercial. But unfortunately for Johnny, all the kids walk out. Just Zach is like, no, I can't do this. I can't be a part of this. Lisa can finally speak to Johnny, and she walks up to him and tells him, I couldn't speak to you, all this time I couldn't speak to you. And now that I can, I don't want to. And she storms out, like Lisa, who barely gets a second in this episode. Like, I'm so mad that she's so unimportant in most of these. Like, she has the little thing where she where she's crushing on Johnny, and she, she's such a big fan. She can't, talk to him, but he's not interested in Lisa. He's another guy that's interested in Kelly. So Lisa is just she's the comic relief kind of, and she's pushed to the side. Like, Johnny doesn't even pretend to be attracted to Lisa. But whatever. They all storm out, and Mr. Belding finally gets put on to what's actually happening. And he tells them, like, he's so proud of them. And, Johnny storms out, and we never hear from him again. He lost his career. He probably died from a marijuana overdose. So Mr. Belding turns out got all the connections, and wait for it. He says, the kids are disappointed that they can't shoot their anti-drug commercial at the school. Everybody's going to be so disappointed. And Mr. Belding is like, nope, I can make a phone call. And he calls Brandon Tartikoff, that star. Does anybody, for the people that don't know who he is, he ran NBC in the 90s. He could probably still be running NBC. Like, I wouldn't know. But Mr. Belding, Brandon Tartikoff comes, and he shoots the commercial with them. And it is so, like, who gives a shit about Brandon Tartikoff? like really, these kids were so excited to, have the head of NBC at their little school. And it's like what kid knew who knew who Brandon Tartikoff was? He's some random white guy. I don't get it. Like, they were just so excited about Brandon Tartikoff, and it's like, he's Brandon Tartikoff. Like, he's a white guy. He's an old white man. Like, I don't. So they shoot this commercial with Brandon Tartikoff, and we finally we get the backstory of how Mr. Belding knows Brandon Tartikoff, and they went to school together. Brandon Tartikoff wanted to be a principal, and they both loved Becky Belding before she was Becky Belding. And Mr. Belding became the principal, married Becky. Brandon Tartikoff has the better life and is the head of a millionaire, the head of NBC. And yeah. And then we get to see the full commercial to end the episode. And that's an amazing thing. So it's the whole gang, and they all say their word about drugs, like awful, stupid, dangerous, blah blah blah. And then Zach comes on because Zach has the longest the longest part. And what does Zach say? He says, when I get asked if I want to do dope, I only have one word: nope. And then the whole gang comes together to say the title, "There's no hope with dope." And then with Brandon Tartikoff, and then the episode ends. And it is an amazing thing, and I freaking loved it. I loved every second of this episode. I could not get enough of it. It's so great. This is our last drug episode, you guys. I'm shedding a tear. The drug episodes of this show are amazing, and I love them. Oh, there's no hope with dope. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, because goddamn, I love this. I just love this episode. I could not get enough of it. So that's the end, you guys. I don't know what the next episode is. It couldn't be as good as this one, but we'll see. So if you're watching on Hulu, I'm doing season 4, episode 22 next week. I don't know what the name of the episode is. And coming up on the podcast later on, probably on Saturday, is my review for The Gifted. There was no Black Lightning episode this week because of the election. So Black Lightning I'll be back with a review for the next episode of Black Lightning next week. So you can follow me on the socials. I'm on Twitter at NerdTravertPod. Use the hashtag NerdyWatch to chat with me, and I'll use that when I live tweet and everything. I'm on Instagram at The Introverted Nerd. And like the Facebook page at facebook.com/The Introverted Nerd. And I'm also on YouTube. I completely forgot about my YouTube channel, but The Introverted Nerd YouTube channel, all the podcasts are up on the YouTube channel too, so you can go there, you can comment. I don't have any other videos. It's just another version of the podcast, or not another version, but it's just the podcast up on YouTube. So if you want to listen to the podcast on YouTube, feel free. Just subscribe to The Introverted Nerd and you'll get all the episodes there too. So, and if you want to send me feedback, send it to theintrovertednerd@gmail.com. Until next week, everybody. Later.